And this is another video to Mr. Guterres, you know, uh, to help you to get through that kind of things. Yes, it started with an electronic expert. He was a Spanish-born man, you know, and he plays some kind of transponders inside Spanish bulls, and he managed to paralyze by using computer frequencies to paralyze that bull. Yes? You understand? He plays any kind of electronic device inside the bull, and then he managed to paralyze the angry bull. After that, he left Spain, went over across the Atlantic, and managed to get on a university in Ohio. And he got the permission as professor to make science on apes. He opened the neck, the skin on the neck of the apes, and he placed embedded microscopic chips inside the apes. And then he built a wireless connection to that electronic components, and he makes science inside the body of the apes. And he also managed to kill. He just pushed a button on that computer keyboard and the ape were killed, you know. And then later on, he prepared 2 apes, and both apes were connected to the computer. And he had visitors who were looking at what he were presenting. And there were also people from military, secret service, and of course all the students. And then he represent what he can do. He pushed the button on his computer keyboard, sent signals in both apes at once, and both apes were dead. You know his famous words, a human being doesn't got the right to developing their own consciousness. It must be ruled by precisely chirurgic instruments. Yes, that asshole left the university and started working for the military defense. And each one can imagine, when you place a mind like that inside human beings, the Nazi who sit behind the computer and have access to that mind inside the neck, can do whatever you want with a kidnapped body. And then later on, in the end of the 70s, the first embedded computer chip patented on the electronic multinational company IBM. Yes, patented on that company, were secretly placed in one American prison, secretly placed inside a lot of prisoners. And then they start creeping in their body using computer-linked technology, you know? And the press speaker, after it turned out, and some press were behind that story, the press speaker from that company said, "Oh, we took them out of each prisoner." No one knows if it's true. If you can place the minds secretly inside human beings, like they did twice with me. Yes? The end of the 70s was it IBM implant in prisoners. And when the Nazis who place those things have also computer Nazi rats who are having access to the human implants and can do whatever software program has been developed for humans inside the CIA, inside the Pentagon. Yes. The Pentagon has an own stuff, an own project ongoing. 2 Air Force Base, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio and Maxwell Air Force Base, also in the United States. Yes. They have voluntary soldiers who are wearing those embedded chips, and they use that for untraceable or invisible communication with the computer stuff. They communicate with brain cells. Can you imagine that? Voluntary. And when you, as a victim, have all the experience, what they did, what kind of software programs they developing, or they exchange inside the NATO countries. You can't imagine that. Really, you can't imagine it. How satanic Nazis they are. Awful human beings. They know precisely what they're doing. Like building up a wireless connection to your listening cells and start terrorizing inside their head, day and night. Yes? Day and night. Force you to live Nazis' life. Listen to them. Confiscating your entire mind and force you to think. When they torture you inside the dreaming sets, they program movies and send the movies inside the dreaming sets. They force you to think about that fucking Nazi movie they place inside the dreaming sets. Yes, that Nazi programmers. First, they program the movies, and then they torture you inside the dreaming sets. Dreaming sets is one of the structures they have access to. Another one are the sleeping sets. They are able to stimulate you between 10 and 15 minutes into deep sleep. No matter where you go, no matter where you are. Can you imagine that? They did that in the early 90s with me. I start working at 7 o'clock in the morning, and 2 or 2.5 hours later, I start getting tired. Real tired. I didn't have any kind of resistance. Keep me awake. It took between 10 and 15 minutes. They stimulate me into deep sleep at my working place in the morning, you know? And then they send again a movie which they programmed inside my dreaming sets, which made me cry because I saw a baby getting sticked with a pillow. I couldn't recognize any kind of face. I only saw 2 hands who grabbed the pillow and stick the baby in the baby bed. You know? Yes, the Nazis love to torture with movies like that. And that was in 1991. I went to the police. I asked the police for help to find out who those Nazis are, where they are placed. Where's that computer Nazi machine? But they didn't help. They didn't investigate. There was no prosecutor who fight for tortured people against the tortured Nazis, torturing Nazis, you know? And when they stimulate me into deep sleep, they know precisely. I went to the police. I tried to get some help. But the police, the prosecutors, they don't care. They close all cases, you know? That's justice in Germany. Yes. And if you apply against the decision of that prosecutor and reach the next one, he also close. And the next one also close. And when you write to the highest prosecutor in the country, oh, he's saying, receiving your complaints, the dirty Nazis from Karlsruhe, they never question, they never get contact, nothing at all. They support the fucking Nazis who kill the thinking cells, you know? Yes. And when I say more torturing details, in 1993, yes, they organized torture inside the listening cells to force you day and night to listen to the Nazi headset and force you to think. You can't do a shit. In 1993, they prepare that acoustic torture, you know, In 1993, that wicked coward Nazis, they also started keeping me awake, blocking me from everything, from everything, blocking me. They kept me awake. 3 days, 3 nights, 4 days, 4 nights, year after year. I lost my full-time job. Yes. And later on, they forced me to live on Social Security. Every time when I start working again, they kept me awake. They kept me awake. And in February 1996, they actually start terrorizing inside the listening cells. You know? Yes. They prepare that acoustic torture in the year of 1993. And in 1996 they started. And in 1996 they tortured me into coma. And they were talking inside the head that time, day and night. On that torture, not only men participate, there was also a woman talking inside the head. Yes, 1996, they tortured me into coma. It was a whole day and night talking. Yes, and when I remember a few of their spoken words, you know, oh, outside in my garden, the company Siemens, they mention the name Siemens, the company Siemens placed a bomb in the garden, the place where I was living, you know, words like that, and they torture also with detonating petrol stations. Yes, when I was walking. That time when they tortured me into coma, this dirty German Nazis, that wicked coward Pistorius Nazi crew. You know, that was not the time of Boris Pistorius, but that was the time of the Christian Nazi, Reul. Yes, and the same Nazi who tortured me into coma is still working. But now for Nazi Boris Pistorius, you know, and no one stops those military Nazis, and not even you. You never answer, you never get involved in embedded political victims, you know? That's strange. For you, embedded computer chips, RFID chips, any kind of computer chips which really exist, yeah, can you imagine? In the United States, a place computer chips the size of 1,000 millimeter. You know, you can't even see them on X-ray. Such small size. Yes, to help Parkinson sick people. Yes, they always shaking, you know, and they're searching inside the brain cells where that vibration is. And then they try by connecting to the computer chip inside the head. They try to block those vibrations on Parkinson. And they also try to help paralyzed people who have an accident, car accident, and can't move the feet anymore, or the legs anymore, or the finger anymore, you know. Try to explain you. You know, I do that. Yes, this is what I'm doing. And the neuroscience, not the neuroscience, the Nazis of the defense, yes, they're looking where that inside the brain cells happen, then they isolate that, and then they can stimulate those brain cells to move, huh? Yes, to move. The paralyzed hand again, the paralyzed fingers again. This is what medical research doing, huh? But we don't talk about medical research, you know. We're talking about Nazis, interim minister, huh? And military stuff who doing this. And when you get tortured, huh, that they send electronic impulse, that you move, that they move your legs, yes, and at the same time, they paralyze the voice muscles, because moving from their computer, moving my legs, huh, against my will. They move the legs against my will, and they know precisely how it hurt. Yes, and torturing people like that, at the same time, paralyze the voice muscles, that no one in your neighborhood can hear your painful screaming. Of course I was screaming, but at the same time they paralyze the voice muscles. Huh? They love that torture, that Nazi, Vergrühe, and his Computernazis crew. And that same Nazi is now working for Nazi Boris Pistorius and send movies inside the visible cells and torture inside the visible cells, not inside the pupil. Yes? The pupil is objective. Yes? It's not the pupil who see anything. These are the nerves, the seeing nerves who see. And they torture inside the seeing cells. They send pictures and videos inside. That wicked coward Nazis from Germany understand that anger. Yes, and you have a lot of influence and talking about hate, please don't hate, please don't hate, please don't hate. You try to block the human rights? Why are the fucking Nazis killing you? And say, human rights, human beings doesn't got the right to hate Nazis, who torture you into coma, who burn your teeth away, who lock your asshole, who shoot in your torture into coma. There are so many war crimes that Nazis did. Understand that. And please, hate doesn't change the things they did. You know, the things already happened, but the Nazis are still free, and that is your mistake, Mr. Guterres.